name is Alejandra Corbella. Welcome to the fourth episode of Crypto Cultura. Today I have a very special guest, Bianca Velazco. She's been a sex worker for a couple years. She was actually one of my first friends to know about cryptocurrency and use cryptocurrency. So I'm super excited. In this conversation, we talk about sex work, cryptocurrency, how it's helping a lot of sex workers be decriminalized, and just helping them create generational wealth. I am super excited to have her here. So welcome, Bianca. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much. I'm great. I'm wonderful. Thanks for having me.
So Bianca, tell me a little bit. It's interesting, right? Because we met, about 2 years ago. And I remember we had a conversation about cryptocurrency. At the time, I didn't know about cryptocurrency, but I wasn't as involved as I am now, now that I'm doing like blogs and I'm doing a lot of content. And I do remember you mentioned that a lot of sex workers were involved in cryptocurrency, right? So tell me a little bit about like what your first exposure to Bitcoin in crypto, because for a lot of people, they either heard about it because they were trying to buy drugs, or like maybe they heard about it something like that, right? Or they needed something and they got in, right? But what is your cryptocurrency journey?
So when I first heard about cryptocurrency, I was not interested at all. It sounded, on one hand, like you said, really shady, really shisty, right? Like it was like some sort of black market, like dark web thing. It didn't sound really legal. It didn't sound real. It was kind of scammy. And on the other hand, it was just like really nerdy and techie. And I literally had like no idea like what it was, if it was real or what it meant. But I actually got involved in cryptocurrency because I had to. I was forced to use cryptocurrency. So I had heard about it in 2013. I had all these feelings about it, negative feelings. I wasn't really interested. But then in 2016, when our wonderful 45th president got elected, one of the first things that happened was that the website Backpage got shut down. And Backpage was a big advertisement platform for many sex workers. It was very affordable. It was easy to use. You could just like pay with a credit card, but all of the credit card companies actually backed out of paying for Backpage, or, being able to be used with Backpage. So we couldn't even advertise using regular like credit cards and stuff. So I was forced to use Bitcoin as a form of currency to pay for my advertising. So basically in the sex work community, if you're not working outside, right, you're working indoors, which means you have to advertise somehow because you're not out on the street, you're indoors. So you advertise online, you advertise in the back of newspapers, magazines, anything like that. So I had to actually pay for my advertisements using Bitcoin. And I went through this whole process of actually purchasing Bitcoin from like a human being, like in another country. Like it wasn't like it is today. Like I had a wallet, but I actually had to like give a guy my money and he would give me my Bitcoin. So that's how I first learned about Bitcoin.
So how was that process? I can imagine it was like nerve-wracking to contact a stranger in the internet, right? And
I was literally so ready to lose my money. Like I think I spent the first transaction I made in Bitcoin, I had $50 worth of Bitcoin. I was ready to lose it. It was like I already was at my wit's end. I didn't know how I was going to advertise. I thought I might be out of work. And I was ready to lose that money, but he ended up giving me my Bitcoin.
So how was that? Like, did you understand the whole wallet thing? Like, did you just, advertise? Because I think you touched on a very important thing, right? A lot of people think like sex workers are balling and they're like, they're just getting all of these clients. But you touch a very important point, which is advertising, which is a very crucial way for sex workers to make their money. And even now that companies like Pornhub now are accepting cryptocurrency, that's powerful, right? So
absolutely.
How was that? Like, how did you start using cryptocurrencies from then? Like, do you still use cryptocurrencies for Backpage, or what is the process like for you and for other sex workers?
So what happened in 2016 was Backpage completely went away. We could not use Backpage anymore. So all of the advertising platforms that were still around were either based in other countries, or we had to use Bitcoin in order to advertise with them if they were in this country, because they wouldn't accept any other form of, credit card or anything like that, because all the credit card companies backed out. So I lost my train of thought there. But since then, I started advertising using cryptocurrency because they were like, okay, we're in trouble now. You know, there's a lot of conservative influence coming from the United States. If we want to continue, like they have investment in sex workers too, because if they don't have an advertising platform, they don't get paid either, right? And advertising is the only way that we get to work safely indoors as sex workers, you know? So from then on, I started like having a little bit of Bitcoin set aside just to pay for my advertisements, because I knew that credit card companies would not be, you know, able to work with these platforms. So I wasn't really using it as a form of currency as other than the fact that I paid for my advertisements with it, which I'd say my advertising budget per month now is anywhere between $100 to $200. So that's a lot of money, you know? And then eventually clients started telling me that they could pay me in Bitcoin. And I was still kind of like, this is shady. Like, it doesn't seem real. Like, I don't want to, you know, have a 2-hour client gets, you know, $600 to $800 in Bitcoin and not know what to do with it. Like, can I turn it into cash, this and that, you know? So over the years, I started learning more and more, and it started to seem really revolutionary to me.
So how was that process? That's my next question. How would our sex workers, have you noticed in the sex working community, are people accepting Bitcoin? Are they just, what's the process? Are you cashing it out? Are you keeping it as a way of hodl? Like what are sex workers moving with? And I'm not talking about just Bitcoin, right? Now we have other cryptocurrencies that are being used. So what do you do? Like, do you used to cash out? Were you like holding it? What was that process like?
Personally, I had no investment in the future of Bitcoin or other cryptos. Like for me, like in the first few years, not talking now, of course, obviously, you know, where I'm at now with it is I like to hold it. But in the past, I would get it and I would immediately cash it out because I have no idea what it is. I don't want it to just disappear into thin air, you know. But the internet has served as like a really great revolutionary like breeding ground for sex workers, because we can all talk on Twitter. We all talk about, you know, forms of crypto and like payment, and most sex workers who are involved in the sex worker community now are aware that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are extremely revolutionary. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that like forms of payment like PayPal and Cash App and Venmo are really not sex worker friendly. And I've actually personally had my funds frozen on PayPal. They ended up giving them to me, but I know other sex workers who have had their funds frozen and their accounts just deleted, like funds completely gone on these payment apps or whatever, right? So they like exclusively accept Cash App and cash and cryptocurrency, right? So it's like totally revolutionary, and the sex worker community is really highly educated in this stuff. I feel like more than normal people, and really early on in the game. So
since we're talking about, you know, sex workers accepting cryptocurrency and as a revolutionary way to give power to sex workers, empower them, where does KYC come into place, right? Because I've heard other interviews. I was listening to another interview with a sex worker that was talking about Bitcoin, and she talked about like Coinbase freezing her account once they found out, you know, she was using it for sex work. Or, you know, KYC, where you mentioned, right, when you first started, you were just buying it out of the internet, which is way different than now having to literally put your information. People know who you are. They might know what you use it for, right? So have you ever had issues with any of, I mean, I'm not sure what you use, but have you ever had any issues with cryptocurrency, especially exchanges, freezing your money or doing any of that sort?
Yeah. So I've never personally had a problem. I use crypto.com now. It's my favorite. I love the fact that they give you like a debit card that you can use like cash. It's great. I don't like Coinbase for other reasons. And I've never heard of an exchange freezing sex workers' funds. But I do still believe at the end of the day that even if like a specific exchange is prejudiced towards sex workers, that like you still can't seize like Bitcoin and crypto assets like you could with a centralized bank, like a bank that is governed by a specific government, or especially the US, you know? So I still really have faith that it's not going to be an unsafe route for sex workers to take. It's still definitely the safest route. And I've never heard of an exchange being prejudiced, but I'll remember not to use Coinbase.
Well, this was just an example, you know, and I've heard of other exchanges that done that, which, you know, in their, if you go into their policy, some of them will mention that it cannot be used for sex work, right? You
Right.
definitely have to read into it. So that's why I ask. And the other thing I did wanted to talk about is the whole aspect of giving power to sex workers, empowering, right? Which is, a lot of times I feel like society, or just, they have such a bad rep on sex work, right? They said all of these things about it, right? But at the end of the day, there wouldn't be sex workers if there wasn't the demand for it, right? If there weren't people paying for it. And I
Yeah.
think that what's really important is the fact that cryptocurrency is giving power to the people, and it's changing the lives of so many sex workers, like you mentioned, providing safety, providing a way of living, just so many. And I'm talking about the US, right? But I'm not even thinking about like women and men, and just all these people in countries, in
Yeah.
other countries. So
Yeah.
how has cryptocurrency changed your life, but also how has, do you think, has changed the lives of other sex workers in regards of safety, and you know, creating a way of meaning, right? And this, I think, is just giving power to the people, which is a bit, this is what decentralization is about, right? Giving power to the people.
So it's definitely changed my life. It's given me a sense of security. And I feel that in the collective too. I am blessed to be in the midst of a sex worker community, not just here in Los Angeles where I live, but also just online. We have a big presence online, and we talk about stuff like this. It is really revolutionary, you know, and just giving people who are not necessarily in, you know, the mainstream of society a sense of security. Like, we are marginalized people as well. I mean, I'm not saying that I don't have privilege. I have the privilege to work indoors. A lot of sex workers don't have that privilege. You know, I have the privilege to be able to advertise and choose my clients. A lot of sex workers don't even have the privilege. They have to take what they can get. You know what I'm saying? So I'm very privileged, and the sense of security that cryptocurrency has provided me, as far as being able to get paid and everything like that, it's a blessing. And a lot of sex workers, many sex workers are mothers, they're teachers, they have other, you know, responsibilities, they're students, and you know, they could be, you know, the woman sitting next to you, your sister, your best friend. And having a sense of security in finances, especially with what's going on in the world right now, is so revolutionary for marginalized people. You know, I know that you are undocumented, and there are many, many undocumented sex workers trying to make a living in this country. And to know that there's a form of payment that you can receive that the government can't seize is amazing. I mean, it's a calm and a blessing that comes over you like no other. So,
I mean, you mentioned, right, that the government can seize it, right? But that's up to discussion. So what do you think is the future of sex work and cryptocurrency as more regulations come into place, right? Because now you're starting to see, now you have to report it in your taxes, and now they're saying you have to do all of these different things. And I do believe there's going to be more regulation coming in. So what do you think is the future of sex work and cryptocurrency? And what is the future for you in cryptocurrency now that you're holding it? Do you have any goals? What do you plan to do with it? You know, I love to hear the success stories of people that say, you know, I was able to buy a house. I was able to send my kids to college because of this, right? That's like the goals. So what are your goals, right? What do you want? What is the reason why you huddle?
So for the first part of your question, what do I think about the future and more regulations coming into play? Honestly, anywhere I see the government trying to step on the toes of like a new revolutionary movement, I see us getting around it. I mean, we're always like, it seems like we take a step back, you know, every few years, and then we go forward. Like, they can't really stop us. Like, all we want is equality and comfort and security to be able to live our lives and not hurt anyone. You know what I'm saying? And I think that that is a worthy ideal. And I think that the future of cryptocurrency supports that. And no matter what the powers that may be try to do to stop it, I think that we will always get around it. Like, I do have faith in that, and it's really exciting to me. So for the second part of your question, I have a lot of goals around cryptocurrency. I'm going to just hold it to the moon. Like, I'm just going to hold it till whenever. Like, I don't care if it goes down. Like, I'll see that I lose, you know, a few $100s. Like, I've been holding it for a few years now, and I'll just be like, okay, it'll go back up, and it always does. So I would like for one day to, you know, buy a house with crypto. I would love to do that. That'd be great.
That's amazing. I love that. I love that. I mean, like you mentioned, is so important that yes, the government can try to do whatever they want to do, but the people will win, right? This is a revolution.
There's more of us than there are of them at the end of the day. So.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to take the time and say thank you for being so open and outspoken. Definitely, I'm just so excited for this episode to be released so people can check it out.